Right, and we're rolling right now, and I just want to welcome you all to my YouTube channel. I'm Chris Lazo, and today we are going to address a question that I've gotten asked frequently, especially most recently, and that's how do I connect with an audience? How do I connect with an audience? And so I want to give you today 10 ways to connect with an audience. But first, a question. This question is going to hopefully form the way that you think about speaking to be less about the speaker and more about the audience or the listener. And that question is, well, what's connected well with you? I think a lot of us have sat on the other end of a speaking engagement or a presentation, a YouTube video, an Instagram live, a commercial, a television show. We know what connects well with us, and this is kind of the question that should form the way that we speak. When I first started speaking, I kind of focused mostly on what I thought was great, what I thought was effective and impactful, but the big shift in my speaking ability came when I started asking others what connected well with them. And so this is just a great practice whenever you're putting together any kind of speaking presentation of any sort, whether it's live or on video, is to ask what's connected well with you. And you may find that your answers are maybe represented in one of the 10. So without further ado, 10 ways to connect well with your audience, starting with number 1, address a felt need. Ladies and gentlemen, it will not matter how great a speaker you are if nobody cares about the content you're speaking about. It doesn't matter if you're passionate about the topic you're speaking about. If it doesn't address a felt need of your audience, it's gonna fall flat. So the question most of us need to ask is when we're presenting that talk or that message, that presentation, that Instagram live, that YouTube video, is this something my audience needs to solve right now? Is this a felt need? Is this pressing on them? Do they care about this? That's the first one. If it's not, then we need to go back to the drawing board and just discern or figure out what our audience is trying to solve, and so that we can speak into that directly. Number 2, reveal the possibilities. Here's what I mean about this. I mean not merely speaking about the information or the data or the facts, or if you have a product, the specs or the technical aspects of that product, or if you're talking about, or if you're offering a service, not just speaking about the function of that service or product, but speaking about the benefits. What is in it for them? What's in it for them? And specifically, not just giving them the information, but showing them what's possible if they buy what you're offering, if they experience what you're offering, if they do what you're recommending they do. Reveal the possibilities. Number 3, offer concrete steps. Concrete steps, okay? What I mean by concrete steps is simple steps that you can do right now. In other words, not 100 things that you should be doing or you could be doing, but 1 to 3 next steps. I also don't mean something, long term. When you're ending a talk, you don't want to tell people a 3-year plan, what to do 3 years from now. You want to leave them with steps to do as soon as they're done listening to your talk, so that they can wrap not only their minds around the content that you just delivered, but around the application of what you're recommending. People really need to catalyze content. One of the best ways to do that is by putting it into action. That's why really powerful to give people steps they can go out and do right now. Number 3, offer concrete steps. Number 4 way of connecting with your audience is to share your struggle. So many experts in the field might fail to do this. They'll do everything else right. They'll present with passion. They'll deliver flawlessly. They'll share the possibilities and address a felt need. They'll offer concrete ways forward, but they fail to make that extra connection by sharing a personal story, and specifically a personal struggle. What do I mean by a struggle? Well, if you're addressing somebody's problem in your talk, share how you also experience that problem. If you are delivering or offering a solution to a problem, share with them how you struggled and your journey in that, but eventually how you also came to that particular solution. So, number 4, share your struggle. Number 5 is tell a story. Now, I don't just mean a personal story like I explained in number 4, sharing the story of your struggle. I just mean an illustration. Sharing an illustration or a metaphor, some kind of vignette or story to give picture to any kind of point you just delivered. Now, in the slide here, I got this lamp pointing at you. Some of you might recognize that logo as the Pixar logo. I share that because Pixar is one of the best in the business. They tell stories that are so good. They can capture both a 5-year-old's attention and a 45-year-old's attention. There's a story in all of their films, and guess what those stories do? Guess why they're so effective? It's going back to number 1. They're addressing felt human needs. So never skimp by on the opportunity to tell a story. Just make sure your story is related to the particular point that you are conveying at the time. Number 6, show some emotion, people. Show some emotion. Whether it's laughter or happiness or surprise or even anger at the right time if done well. Just show that you are able to feel and connect with your audience in emotional ties and emotional places. This is something public speakers I see usually neglect to do, and I think it's usually because when we get up, I don't think most of us fail to show emotion. I think when we get up in front of a camera or in front of people, we fail to show emotion. It's almost like a switch goes off. Like we could be laughing, crying with our friends, getting excited about a football game or whatever it is. But then the moment we hit record, something happens to us where we think we're supposed to be professional, and have it all together. And professional usually means for public speakers to stuff their emotions. Well, that couldn't be farther from the truth. And if you want to disconnect from your audience, just suppress all of your emotion. Your audience feels things, and they want to know that you feel things too. So if you're coming up on an offer or a possibility or an opportunity that's exciting to you, let it come out. If there's something really serious that you want to take seriously or it's intense, let that come out too. If you're quirky, laugh a little bit. Just show the true emotions that you're feeling in your presentation. And a little pro tip here, go a little beyond in your expression than you normally would. Sometimes we have to do a little bit extra from the video camera, from the podium, than we normally would in face-to-face conversation just for it to come across. Okay, number 7, make eye contact. I know this might sound like a no-brainer to some of you, but for me, when I first started, I was always looking at my notes. Even in one-on-one casual conversation, I would always look down or off to the side. And I realized over time that one of the greatest ways of making connection with people is by looking them in the eye. That is one of the greatest human connections, is eye contact. And this is true in conversation. It's also true in a presentation. In fact, if there's a lot of people and you're speaking live, try to make eye contact with as many people as possible. It really does something powerful to people and engages them. Now, some of you might be doing an Instagram live or a YouTube live, and you can't see people's eyes. Well, that's easier. For you, I would just say make sure you're looking straight into the camera lens. Now, I say that because in some of these smaller cameras, there is a viewfinder, and it has your picture or the video of you on it, and it's kind of a tempting thing. It's true of an iPhone as well, even harder on an iPhone, to look down at the screen where your face is. But that has a really weird effect. I'm going to show you and see if you can see this. I'm looking at the lens right now. Now I'm going to look at the viewfinder. Now imagine me talking like this the whole time. This is what people do all the time. Can you imagine having a conversation like this with somebody at a dinner party or at lunch, and they're just kind of looking off into the distant future, just getting all mystical? It's really weird. It kind of cuts off connection there. And it's the same with the camera. So if you're using a camera, resist the temptation to look at the viewfinder. Look directly at the lens, because that's where people are going to feel the most eye contact. So number 8, use your natural voice. What do I mean by natural voice? Well, I want you to imagine what you sound like when you're with close friends, okay? How do you speak when you're with friends? Are you quirky? Are you funny? Are you goofy? Are you serious? Do you get really deep in conversation? Do you get passionate? Are you even keel? Do you like to speak methodically and articulately? These are all important because they're all you. So whatever it is that you do when you're speaking with friends that you're most comfortable with, I want you to try to translate that over when you turn a camera on and when you get in front of people. Kind of like with showing emotion. When we click that record button, when we get in front of people, it's almost this weird thing that sets in, like we've got to be professional and be a certain way. I want you to get rid of that thought. Whatever professionalism means, just be yourself. That's what's going to connect with people the most anyway. So, number 9, summon confidence. I have a picture up here on the slide of a cat, but he's casting a shadow of a lion. I know that's a goofy little stock image, but it really captured what I want you to do as a public speaker. And that's not to pretend to be something that you're not, but to not necessarily show things that your audience doesn't see themselves. In other words, you might be nervous, but nobody knows that unless you're sweating bullets. Most people don't know you're nervous, and so you don't need to tell them that you're nervous. You also don't need to show them that you're nervous. Believe it or not, there's a lot of science behind this in the way that the brain works, that you can actually bring or summon certain feelings and emotions ahead of time. You can actually summon confidence before you're getting up to speak and feel that burst of dopamine or energy start to take root. And your brain doesn't know the difference between the way you're feeling now and the feelings you're feeling when you imagine what you're feeling down the line. And so what I usually like to do before getting up to speak is I try to meditate a little bit. I'll do some deep breathing, and I'll just imagine what would happen when I'm in the zone and I'm killing it. And you'll start to notice when you do that, you just feel this boost of energy. I'm not trying to be weird motivational guru type speaker here, but this works. There's a science behind it, and it will actually calm your nerves. And when you're more confident, it has an effect on the crowd. I remember legendary comedian Steve Martin once said that at a certain point in his career, he wouldn't even have to say jokes. He'd just walk onto the stage and people would just be ready to laugh. And he attributed that to the confidence that he had at an expert in his field. At a certain point, you just get so comfortable and confident in what you're doing that the crowd feels your energy and they love it. Here's the last one. Don't be afraid of humor. I know this is a scary one. You might not think of yourself as a stand-up comedian, and you don't have to force jokes or make people laugh, but I'll bet if you look back at some of your best conversations with your friends, you might be funnier than you think. And humor has a powerful way of disarming people. Even the hardest, thickest skinned people, it can really disarm them. So if you are feeling in that moment, if you're a quirky person or you've told some jokes before or you're goofy, let that out. If you think something's going to be funny, just try it. The worst that could happen is it's silent, and you can quickly recover by just moving on and pretending like you weren't trying to tell a joke anyway. So no harm, no foul. But maybe it was funny and people will laugh and they're completely disarmed and ready to engage you completely. So there's those 10. And they all come down to this, really. Just be human. One of the worst things you could do as a public speaker is to try to be something you're not, whether it's a robot or another speaker that you heard or something that's, thrust upon you, projected upon you by others. Just be human, be yourself, and things will go vastly better than you probably imagined. Hope you enjoyed this. See you next time.